And as you can see, people, my initial assumption was correct. The quests are all over the place, and if you don't grab them, hey, there we go, misplaced. Teardrop Ham there. No, Tearlesia wasn't Tearlesia, it's here. Well, whatever. Whatever, Shirka, you're always, she's always bothering me. It's the same. It's the same. There we go. So we begin with the Lost Caravan and we'll explore the northern section. Here there's probably another settlement because I see a lot of roots there. And hey, we missed a spot there. Let's get over there. Let's do it, people. So we depart here. We'll begin from there. No, there's no point on. Can we kill these guys? Attack is the best defense. We got a random quest just by attacking someone here. There we go. Pretty much. Get rid of that one. 8 out of 8. Thanks for your help and sugar. There we go, and that unlocks another quest line. The attacks of the desert folk, the Durach, are getting bolder every day. We can stop them and bring me their insignias as proof. Alright, this probably has to do with. It's probably a fetch quest of killing 30 or 50 of them. What's a cow doing here? That's not realistic. In a desert, cows generally don't get to deserts. Alright, let's get to it. We are back, very good. Now business can continue. Customers, blah blah blah. Cheers.
I haven't had a nice joint on the table in ages.
And that's probably a random quest that just involves killing enemies that are from the same type. Okay, let's take the north route and finish exploring the desert. Let me flash the memory of the game. Remember, alt tabbing is the very thing that ensures that you flash the memory of the game. Right? There we go. Signal, defense value, etc. There we go. See, yeah, it's changing. That this moved from here to here is just a random quest. We have to ignore it. So let's go for Lost Caravan. Let's explore this hard cap. Let's explore this section. This is a settlement. Alright, let's explore this section first. Let's go. Alright, people, let's first explore this section. We already have our side quests. As I've said, they are, as I inferred, they are pretty much around the main settlement. So today we'll cover all of the northern region. We probably have more nested quests, and we'll grab them later. So let's see. Okay. Let's begin with this section, and today I wanted to focus, besides the metaphysical analysis that we usually do of the gameplay, mechanics, I wanted to focus on the level design aspect, the level design category of the analysis. I said some time ago when we got into this region that the game, that Sacred 2 successfully mixes level design elements from the old school procedurally generated development elements, like in The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, that basically involve. I always wanted to be somebody, but now I realize that I should have been more specific. Grayson, if lab is the answer, could you please rephrase the question? Women are wiser than men because they know less and understand more. That would be debatable. But the art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook. Indeed. Alright, and this is part of the quest that we just grabbed. There we go, and... Okay. And through here we'll explore the desert. As I've said, the level design. Sacred 2 successfully mixes level design elements from procedurally generated games, level design in games, and successfully mixes elements from handcrafted level design development philosophy. Why, Eraser? Why? Because some of the world bosses are handcrafted, they are fixed spawns, and other mobs, the random mobs of the game, that influence, as you can see in the quest that we are doing, that we've been doing for 32 days, they're random spawns. So, we have random spawns in terms of enemies. By the way, pretty good enemy variety in this game. There's pretty good enemy variety because you go up against different types of enemies, and the depth of the gameplay mechanics is influenced by the enemy variety because they have a different. This is related to what we explored in the first 2 hours of the analysis, and the very reason I wanted to mention it. That enemy variety in this game has a lot of depth because of the elemental resistances and damages system that the game has in place. So different mobs deal different types of damage, and the mobs are different.
Who are too easily defeated do not bring glory to the Inquisition.
According to the location, you have different enemies according to the location you explore. Now, I know that we take that element for granted a lot of the time, but we shouldn't overlook it, because if we pay close attention to it, to that element, if we pay close attention to it, we'll realize that in a lot of modern isometric action RPG games,
Who are too easily defeated
we don't have the insane amount of enemy variety that we get in Sacred 2, and on top of that, the second layer of abstract complexity that adds a lot of abstract complexity to the gameplay mechanics is that in this game, enemy variety does matter. It does matter. Something that we cannot say in a lot of modern isometric action RPG games, even if we establish a direct comparison. Why? Because in a lot of modern isometric action RPG games and MMORPG games, we don't get the degree of enemy variety, but also we don't get the depth. We don't get the depth of the gameplay mechanics that enemy variety brings to the table in Sacred 2. Why? Because of the elemental damage system that I've been analyzing for the past week, people. Precisely. As you can see here, this mob deals physical and magic damage, and it receives all 4 types of damage except for ice damage. That is the 5th elemental resistance that we can have. So enemy variety in this game exponentially influences the level design. That's the first thing that I wanted to highlight today, because it's something that we couldn't analyze at the beginning of the series, because we didn't have the insane degree of enemy variety. Second, as I was mentioning, we have a perfect balance between procedurally generated elements and handcrafted elements in terms of the level design. We have random dungeons with recycled assets, because they are the same in a lot of cases. There we have the procedurally generated aspect of the level design of Sacred 2. The dungeons recycle elements, recycle the spawns, so it's procedurally generated. In this game you can go back to it, and the enemies will respawn constantly. So there we have the procedurally generated element. This influence comes, if we want to search for a reference, This is the inherited legacy of The Elder Scrolls 2, Daggerfall, and a lot of other classic RPG games from the 90s. And then we have handcrafted elements. The world bosses have fixed spawns. The overworld has fixed quests, and some of the elite enemies, I believe, are also fixed spawns. So there we have the more modern influence of the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, that is the very game responsible for creating the handcrafted philosophy, of influencing the handcrafted philosophy of the level design in games, alongside GTA 3, we could say. Because those two don't have a single randomly procedurally generated level design element to them at all. So we have a perfect balance between the procedurally generated elements and the fixed handcrafted elements. So, as I always say, variety is always better, because we have influences from both
There are no opponents worthy of
systems.
like me.
We have an influence from both. We have influences from both systems, from both level design systems. See, I told you that we were going to complete all of these. As we explore the place. So, just as we established the metaphysical analysis of the gameplay mechanics the other day, today I wanted to do the metaphysical analysis of the level design, precisely. Sacred 2 is objectively superior to the average to most isometric action RPG games.
Only mean to help.
Why? First, because of the extension, but also because of the complexity of the terrain. Why? Because it's, as I said, it's more extensive than most isometric action RPGs, but also the twisting paths and all of the secret. The game is filled to the brim with secrets and secret dungeons and things to explore, and it's absolutely incredible. And it's absolutely incredible that a game this extensive retains the insane degree of complexity in its level design. If you think about, we've talked about this with Scarlet Dragon, for example, a lot of streams ago with a viewer of the channel, that in GTA, for example, you get extremely big worlds. It's pretty much a pioneer. GTA is pretty much a pioneer in terms of that. In terms of extensive worlds. But the complexity of the terrain, it's much lower if you think about it, because you get we were talking about this precisely. The paths are straight to the objective. You don't get the twisting paths and obstacles that you get in Sacred 2, for example. And yes, in GTA, for example, you can get on a car. Well, here we have our mount. But if we established a proportional relation between a car's speed in GTA, a car's speed in GTA and our mount here, and the extension of the terrain, we would get a proportion. That basically destroys GTA. If you think about it, it destroys GTA completely. Sacred 2, if we take into account the complexity of the terrain, not in this case because it's a desert, but a lot of the twisting paths of the islands,
Heretic.
that was definitely the strongest point of the level design, with a lot of mazes. And the initial region with the insane amount of dungeons and everything. We get as a result a game that has the complexity of a smaller scale map. For example, The Legend of Zelda. In The Legend of Zelda, we get an insane amount of abstract complexity. We get a lot of level design complexity. For example, the water temple. We always cite the water temple and those things. The temples in The Legend of Zelda, for example. And we get that complexity, or close to that degree of complexity. But on the other hand, we get the extension of an open world game that definitely the original Legend of Zelda didn't have. This is something that precisely in the Legend of Zelda franchise, fans have complained a lot about. That the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild doesn't have, that the dungeons are not as good as in Ocarina of Time. For example, what the fans were unconsciously trying to say, or subconsciously trying to say, is that the abstract complexity of the level design in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was lowered to the maximum when compared. Take this back to my old friend Christine, a little favor.
Even though it is below my rank, I am interested in your assignment.
We have more quests over there. What the? Why is that unexplored? There we go. We cannot have that unexplored. What the fans were actually trying to say is that the abstract complexity of the level design in The Legend of Zelda, in Breath of the Wild, what they were actually trying to say, and they perhaps couldn't explain it themselves, is that the abstract complexity of the level design was much higher in old school Zelda games, because the dungeons were much more twisting, and every mechanic was perfectly used, and to unlock those mechanics you had to perfectly use your objects and pay attention to the terrain and everything. It was a highly condensed complexity of level design. It was a highly complex, compressed complexity of level design, perfectly, masterfully crafted. So, Sacred 2, it's a perfect balance, because we have that complexity, there are a lot of twisting paths, especially in dungeons and islands, but you also get the benefits of the overworld that we enjoy, and the extension of it that we also enjoy so much, and the extension of the terrain. So, I like the balance that Sacred 2 strikes. It strikes a perfect balance between... It strikes a perfect balance. It strikes a perfect balance between the highly condensed complexity of handcrafted games that are small,
those who harbor heretic ideas,
while retaining the extension of procedurally generated games. We have two. Pick up my shipment.
the Inquisition is said to be heartless.
We have 3 more quests in
I will
here.
prove to you otherwise.
Have 3 more. You cannot accept this quest because too many hirelings are escorting you. Finish your active assignments. I didn't know this is the first time it happens to me, people. Damn it. That's not good. I think it's the second time actually it happens to me. What do we have here? A Colosseum? This one? Can I accept this one? Bring me 20 bad carapaces. Okay. Exquisite long drinks. What's going on here? There we go. Another Colosseum we have here. Pretty much. I love that the developers of the game like our Roman ancestors so much as to create the second Colosseum. Pretty much. And let's see what do we have here. What do we have? You know what? I'm not gonna grab the quest because then I'll think that I'm finished with this village, and I'm not, because I cannot. I have to finish some of the quests first. Yeah, I better leave all of these for yeah, pretty much. I cannot grab all of the quests. Yeah, this is the same. It's an escort mission. Yeah. Just let me explore the. Let me explore the corners. But yeah, as I was mentioning, people, today I wanted to highlight that the game strikes a perfect balance between the high condensed complexity of handcrafted. Same here, but I think this is the limit of them, unfortunately. It strikes a perfect balance between the highly condensed abstract complexity of small games with its level design and the extension of big games that have those extensive worlds. So yeah, it brings the best of both worlds, so I think it's fair to say that it has the most optimal level design philosophy behind it.
There are no challenges left for
An
me.
insane amount of ambition that we don't see every day, and it's worth
My
praising.
power is too great. These opponents are not worth my while any longer.
No, I want to explore the region here.
In the long run, easy victories are not worth it. I have to move on.
Hang on a second. There's the path. See, for example, until I found this path, I had to see how twisted the terrain is. Incredible. And I think that's it. Pretty good. We have a pretty good exploration of the terrain. Let's move a bit down to the south. And another element, the second element I wanted to highlight, is a fetch quest system. Besides, so as a conclusion, we have a perfect balance. The game strikes a perfect balance between the extension of open world games and the highly compressed quality of handcrafted small games that we usually have, that are the most common, because we usually don't see studios with a budget to create an extensive world, and when they do, because that's extremely expensive, that don't have the budget to create extensive worlds in games, and they go for smaller solutions. So here we get the perk of a gigantic overworld with the perfect complexity, with the perfect degree of complexity, a high degree of complexity of highly condensed small maps. And it's something that we don't see every day in games, people. A lot of games can either never reach this insane amount of complexity, of terrain complexity in terms of level design, or they can't reach the extensive, huge dimensions of Sacred 2. So the fact that we have the best of both worlds in terms of the level design is something that we should always appreciate. For example, in Borderlands does this perfectly. It does this perfectly because you have an extensive world has an extensive world, and it has a lot of dungeons in it, pretty similar to an MMORPG. World of Warcraft also does a perfect job, because you get a lot of complexity. But for example, in the case of GTA, in older GTA games, you don't get that degree of abstract complexity. You definitely don't get it because all the paths are pretty much straightforward. How do we explore that section of the map? Ah, it's part of the fortress here. Through here. So yes, I wanted today to take a moment and appreciate that, because we generally don't get a game, we don't see games that have this perfect balance between, and this is something that I will mention once we get to the final analysis of the game. We generally don't get games with this insane extension of the terrain, with the highly compressed depth of Sacred 2. So we get the best of both worlds, and it strikes a perfect balance. So yes, pretty much. We have one last spot there. Nope. Okay. So we generally don't get this degree of perfect balance of having an immensely large terrain, a huge terrain, dirty objective, while also having this insane level of remains of a caravan and burying the tank of the kid and then the winner with this insane degree of precision and quality. So good. Good. Ah, wait, we can get rid of some of our score keys. We can get rid of some of our score keys. There. We completed that one. Let me explore then. Let me explore, and then we will turn in that quest, so we can get rid of the escortees, and like that, we'll be able to take on more quests. Why is it that I cannot explore that section? Damn it. There we go. No. They are completely isolated. Damn, we have a whole contingent. That's it. Following us. New shipment, mercenary. I need to ensure they don't die, by the way. I better turn in the quests. We better do that. There we go. So many spiders. Alright, the second thing I wanted to focus today in terms of the level design. The second thing I wanted to focus on, the fetch quest system. I know that sometimes, that nowadays we call these type of quests fetch quests, because they have no storyline. Something that was popularized by The Witcher 3, for example. To have side quests with with storylines, with voiced actors and everything. And since in this game a lot of quests are about simply they are scored quests, or I don't know, fetch quests as we usually call them, of just killing 20 bags or killing 20 mercenaries and those things. We usually call them fetch quests, but I think that's a terrible denomination, because fetch quests actually imply
Recognize your mistake.
that we don't have a storyline, and this game does have a storyline for each quest. They're not voiced, and this is something that I've been commenting, the influence of the level design on the gameplay mechanics. For example, this escort quest doesn't have a storyline, that's why you call it a fetch quest, but the main focus of the quality of the quest
Check my inventory one more time.
actually has to do with the fact that it has a different objective, that there's objective variety. For example, it's not the same a side quest that makes you escort someone, like we're doing now, to a location. It's not the same as just kill 20 bugs, for example, or kill 20 scarabs in this case, or what we're doing. There we can see the influence of a level design, that was just offensive skills, right? Yes. That the influence of a level design is modifying the gameplay mechanics, because it's much harder to escort a target that can die like these ones, than simply killing 20 bugs. There we can see an influence of a level design on the gameplay mechanics. Sorry, of the gameplay on the level design. No, sorry, of the level design on the gameplay mechanics, because it's not. It makes them much higher. The way that they design the quest, the level design, influences the gameplay mechanics. So we have a higher difficulty. Due to a level design choice, people. We have a higher difficulty because of a level design choice. Because if those escortees die, if the target that you're escorting dies, you lose and you fail the quest. Okay, I think we could teleport there, and I've explored the whole place. And then you can lose with a perfectly functional build and a perfectly functional what? Evac from the mayor, about it, thanks.
Too easy.
It wasn't this one. The Lost Caravan, it has to be that one. So you can fail the quest without dying, while being efficiently at combat. So yeah, we'll have a task for you. Salvage the goods from the car.
Shall we seal it in blood? I mean,
And this is the other
ink?
escort mission, right? Or what? Where am I supposed to escort these guys? Over there. Displaced. New shipment. Then perhaps we can teleport to New Hamlet. We can just do those two. Because we need to kind of like get rid of the quests. So yes, people. I'm surprised it didn't crash. Teleporting such a long distance. Alright, here we go. So That's something that reviewers usually don't pay a lot of attention to, and that's terrible because the level design is highly important. And I think it's wrong to that the naming convention of fetch quests. It's absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. We've arrived. All right, there we go. So what? We arrived, and what happens? There we go. Here. You saved us. You'll never forget it. Thank you. And may the gods watch over.
And power.
A new shipment there. Let me complete those. This is done. So you explore the other path. You come from here and you explore the other path. But we had already explored that because we are way too good. Because we're way too good, and we're doing a 100% completion of the game. So yes. So people, I wanted to highlight those elements today, that calling them a fetch quest is wrong, because that means you are putting the emphasis on the fact that the storyline is not voiced and it's not cinematic, and the quality of a side quest comes,
This won't be easy for you.
in this case, from the level design, from the influence of the level design on the gameplay mechanics, on the fact that it comes from the fact that the objective variety as part of the level design influences the gameplay mechanics. If these people that I'm escorting get killed, I fail the mission, even if my combat abilities, even if my combat performance is flawless. The level design is changing the focus of the difficulty. In that case, the level design is influencing the objective variety and thus enhancing difficulty.
Does that hurt, heretic?
And thus enhancing difficulty
Can you feel
of the gameplay mechanics. So, when a game has a perfect relationship between those, the result that you get is, I mean, the pack animal is taking environmental damage. You're listed by the way. You're late. Here's your shipment. We'll be off then. And we teleport. So there we can see how the level design influences the gameplay mechanics of the game. Right? Because the difficulty derives...
To pay a visit to this village's sacred hall. The abbot won't be pleased.
Derives... I would love to see what this quest is about, the pack animals. The one that involves escorting the pack animals because they took some damage. How we're on top of the objective. New shipment. Let's get over there. We have to turn in 2 of them. So yes, the end result that we get is that, don't worry, if they die, I am constantly saving. The end result that we get, it's a perfectly influence of the level design on the gameplay mechanics. As a consequence of this. So calling them fetch quests, because we are putting an emphasis on the quality of the storyline, is not completely right, because you are taking out of the equation the fact
First, I will make you bleed.
The fact of how the level design influenced the gameplay mechanics.
Glory and power.
And we are putting all of the focus on the gameplay. Putting all of the focus on the storyline. And if we do that, the only thing we are doing is ignoring parts of the analysis. We are just simply saying, oh well, since since the quests aren't voiced and we don't have a storyline as good as a main quest, like in The Witcher 3, they are fetch quests, and we call them fetch quests, and like in MMORPGs, we just call them fetch quests because we don't have a story, when the emphasis of that should be on how the level design influences the gameplay mechanics of the game. As I've said, how an escort mission forces the player to perform even better than he would normally do by simply improving our combat, by simply improving our combat dexterity, pretty much, and ensuring that you can score those targets. The level design, the objective, in that case, influenced the objective variety influenced the gameplay mechanics. It made the game tougher because you don't have to worry about yourself and your resistances. Regardless of your resistances and your defenses, your escortees can die. So, there you have it. A perfect example.
I never had any doubts.
Talk to Ompa. That's the 7th caravan that has been ambushed and destroyed by the scarab.
They call me a bad wolf because I'm solving your problems.
Alright, and looks like we are done here. And at least the mule, the oaks is not following us. The caravans. Good. Let's complete this section of the terrain. Damn it, the desert is massive, people, just like the swamp. This game has a lot of massive sections to it. But yeah, today I wanted to cover all of those things, besides our typical metaphysical analysis of the game. There we go. And let's dedicate the rest of the stream then to explore the desert. But well, I wanted to cover those aspects of the gameplay mechanics today. I wanted to cover those aspects because they are extremely important and we usually don't pay a lot of attention to. So good. Calling them fetch quests is not accurate because of what I just said, because we are ignoring, if we do that, the influence of the level design on the gameplay mechanics. We are just considering something a quest, a good quest, and we compare it to a fetch quest just because it doesn't have a complete storyline. And the emphasis of the quality should be put on the influence of that level design on the gameplay mechanics rather than just having a voiced storyline. And this game does that pretty well. Pretty much fixes that pretty in a pretty elegant way. There we go. And in terms of a metaphysical conclusion of the level design, as I've said, because of everything that I've said, it's metaphysically objective to say that Sacred 2 has a vastly superior formula when it comes to the level design when compared to a lot of other games. See that it's not a matter of mental perception. It's not a matter of mental perception. It's objective, people. Why? Because Sacred 2 has the extension, because of everything that we've been analyzing, it has the extension of a massive open world game with the highly compressed, with the high quality of a compressed, with the highly compressed quality, sorry, of a rather small game all across the map. So it maintains that incredibly high level of quality in terms of the level design, and see that that is an objective conclusion. That is an objective conclusion. Because regardless of my mental perception, it is true that the game retains a highly condensed level design quality with a map that objectively is bigger than in most games. So you get the best of both worlds, so the game is even more complete. So we are talking about a game like The Witcher 3, with a high degree of complexity in terms of the level design, and the insane extension of the terrain that we would normally get in a much smaller game. And the quest system of this game, because of the genre classification that I mentioned, that it's an MMORPG rather than an isometric action RPG, you get so many quests that
I am totally overloaded. I have to check my inventory one more time.
that you get a lot of objective variety because of the genre classification of this game. Because of the genre classification, due to the fact that it's an MMORPG rather than an isometric action RPG, the end result, the great end result of this, is none other than we get the density, the quest density.
Room left for that.
We get the quest density of an MMORPG with the smooth gameplay mechanics of an isometric action RPG. So the result is extremely positive, if you ask me. The result is extremely positive because if you think about it, it combines elements in such a way that it ensures that the player will spend a lot of time exploring the game. Let's cross over here and get to this zone, or shall we? If only I could tell which is the quest responsible for those mercenaries. Omfa, the belittled, and you see the quest line led you from here to here. I don't know what that quest may be about, but I think it's back because we've already finished it. It has to be Soldiers of the Past, huh? It has to be the other one. We can... The capital of the desert region, Bengarish. Ah, this region is called Bengarish. It has a name. From here are accustomed to the hostile environment of a desert. Good. We'll go over here. We'll explore through here, and we'll explore there. Let's go. We'll define a line, and from there we'll explore the rest of the terrain.
I'm sure the good citizens already start to sweat behind these windows. And so they should, since here comes the Inquisition to judge all godless heretics who defile true faith.
See, that's what we were talking about on Thursday, about ambience cohesion. Characters act 100% according to their historic to their personalities. That's why I mentioned all of that at the beginning of the game, that the Inquisition was actually common throughout all of Europe. Let's keep going. Let's define a line that will lead us straight to the objective, people. That's why at the beginning of the game I mentioned that it's wrong to think that the Inquisition was exclusively a Spanish phenomenon. It was common to all of Europe. The thing is that since Spain was a frontier between the Moors, the Moor invasion of the medieval Christian kingdoms of medieval Europe,
I never had any doubts.
It was the main epicenter of the... That one was pretty good. That was a pretty... Remember, our Clustering Maelstrom is... exponentially effective the more enemies we stumble upon, because it doesn't have a limit of targets. You've proven that your strength is unparalleled. You've earned my respect. Careful, they are killing the mercenaries. Wait. We are escorting them. See, this is what I was mentioning precisely in terms of the level design. Sacred 2 has the perfect balance between the procedurally generated dungeons philosophy brought to us from inheriting the development philosophy of The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall and all classic RPGs from the 90s, but it strikes a perfect balance between procedurally generated elements of a level design, like having random spawns, the spawn density of an isometric action RPG game, which usually brings a degree of roguelike elements to it. Actually, Diablo 1 wasn't a roguelike and technically brings procedurally generated level design philosophy to the isometric action RPG genre. But this is all exponentially enhanced by the level design of Sacred 2, because, as I've said, the genre classification of this game is that of an MMORPG rather than an isometric action RPG. Now, we've talked about the genre classification. You spoke the ancient words, you decided my assistant prefers that you are worthy and defeat me in a duel. Pretty easy. It shouldn't take long. It has ice resistance, shit, yearbook. Remember, we've pretty much created an invincible character by now. You are definitely worthy enough to fight by my side, blah blah blah. Go to the Durak camp, this is what we wanted, and kill 20 of them. A few soldiers I will accompany you, will march to the Durak camp, blah blah blah. Well, this is why I've been mentioning this, the second element of the analysis. Besides striking a perfect balance between procedurally generated level design elements, having random spawns on the overworld, and having fixed spawns and handcrafted level design elements that come from The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind back during the 6th generation. Is the game that pretty much popularized having handcrafted level design elements instead of randomly generated spawns and the kind of like random spawns that we are all so used to nowadays with the roguelike genre that is so popular nowadays. We get the here it is. Let's just hope the Scorties don't die. Because see, is what I've been mentioning. That the naming convention of fetch quest is wrong. More on that on a second. Besides striking a perfect balance between procedurally generated elements and bringing the handcrafted elements from Morrowind, that is pretty much the game that popularized that alongside GTA 3. With the handcrafted dungeons and those things, Sacred 2 brings the best of both worlds. It brings the highly compressed density of the highly compressed density of quality of handcrafted games, of level design in handcrafted games, like Morrowind and GTA 3, and it also has that component of randomness with the spawns, with the fact that the mobs scale to your level, and that perfect combination of procedurally generated elements and handcrafted elements make a perfect formula, a perfect formula for the level design. Because we get the extension, as I've said, people, the game, look at how massive it is. It's like a Skyrim, it's like World of Warcraft. We are talking about the extension of the environment equivalent of World of Warcraft and Skyrim, but the density in complexity of the terrain, with the twisted paths, with the dungeons, with the handcrafted NPCs and surgically placed quest lines. More than a second, and we'll get to it. With all of that, damn it, it crashed. Well, it lasted for 3 hours, though. I think we can safely say that we've fixed the crashes of the game. Huh? Remember that how we started with the memory leak, and by now it lasts for 3 hours before crashing. Consider that this game doesn't even boot without. You remember that you have the guide over at YouTube to make it work. Consider that the game doesn't even boot when you first get it. But well, back to the level design, people. And then it lasts for some minutes, and then only after 30 days I managed to find a fix for the memory leak to make it at least last for 3 hours. To think that nowadays we get a lot of unnecessary remakes, and the games that truly have memory leaks and truly have a lot of issues from back in the day that actually need these fixes don't get them. And consider, you could see people, we read the forums and everything, and not even the most hardcore community of Sacred 2 could fix these stupid crashes. But don't worry, it saves in real time. So as mentioning, besides striking a perfect level design balance between procedurally generated elements and handcrafted elements, the density of the quest system of the game is also incredibly. It has an insane amount of quality. Why? Because the objective variety of the level design perfectly influences the gameplay mechanics of the game. Why, people? As I always say, one great example. The game has dungeons. It has the handcrafted dungeons. And those handcrafted dungeons, in those, the passages are extremely narrow. You know what that means? We mentioned this when we analyzed Avencast Rise of the Mage. Highly recommended, and a huge shout out to the main level design developer of that congratulated us with the analysis over at YouTube some 2 years ago. Huge shout out. I'm always honored about my analysis being recognized by all of you. The passages are narrow, and the direct consequence of having narrow passages in your isometric action RPG game, like Diablo or World of Warcraft MMORPG, is that you don't have a lot of room to maneuver and evade attacks from enemies. See the difference between this, dealing with enemies on the overworld of the game, that basically you can run away. I'm not doing that because I've created a perfect build. Looks like we've arrived. Compare that to fighting in a narrow passage. In Avencast Rise of the Mage you can see it perfectly because it has pretty long cast times if you're going for the ranged build. You don't have a lot of room to maneuver. The level design is influencing the gameplay mechanics of the game. Since you don't have a lot of room to maneuver, right, my buffs. I forgot about my buffs. True that the game crashed. Sorry, my bad. There we go. Let's reactivate our buffs. The influence of the level design on the gameplay mechanics is magnificent. Because if you don't have a lot of room to maneuver, it will be much easier for mobs and enemies to surround you and kill you, which is the most typical way of dying in isometric action RPG games. Think about Diablo, think about Titan Quest, think about all of the isometric action RPGs that we know and love. And make the comparison of fighting on the overworld, right, with being able to escape without any kind of issue, and fighting in a narrow passage. In Hellgate London you can also see this perfectly. You don't have a lot of room to maneuver, so the probability of being surrounded and killed is increased, and all of these subtle level design elements influence the gameplay mechanics. Getting into the quests, as I've said some minutes ago. Durak Tribal Chieftain, we don't tolerate foreigners and others, let's go for Clustering Maelstrom. That will grab all of them and should kill them all. There we go. Amazing. By now, as you can see, we've already mastered the end game gameplay mechanics of the game in these 32 days of analysis. By the way, if you are interested in the metaphysical aspect of the analysis that we did at the beginning of the stream, people, I've already covered it in terms of the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics. Now I want to focus on the level design. Report our victory of the excavation leader, side leader. It was a good fight, I feel alive.
I never had
Good.
any doubts.
So that's done. Getting into the quests. Besides the perfect balance that Seikyu 2 strikes, as I've said, as a conclusion of the first element that I wanted to analyze today, it strikes a perfect balance between an insane extension of the environment. You get a massive world, similar to Skyrim and World of Warcraft, with the detailed, high-quality, handcrafted elements of much smaller games. That's why, as I always say, that makes Seikyu 2 objectively, because of our metaphysical analysis, remember that I always say, objectively superior in its level design to most modern RPG games, of course, and most RPG games in general. Because we don't usually see games, and if you want, I'm going back to the metaphysical analysis a bit, people, because otherwise it won't make sense in terms of the level design. When I say that is objectively superior in terms of the level design, it's because of the elements that I've commented. See how the focus of the analysis is on the object rather than the subject. I know that nowadays, as a brief summary, I've commented this at the beginning of the stream pretty much in depth. But pretty much nowadays we get relativist analysis. The focus of the analysis of the game review is on the subject rather than the object. That's the thing, as I mentioned at the beginning. Related to the gameplay mechanics, in this case, is related to the level design. Remember, people, as I always say, hang on a second, I don't want it to kill me and respawn somewhere far away. There we go. Ah, we have another settlement here. Let's go over here. So we have a foothold. As I always say, people, when metaphysical reality is the sum of mental perceptions, the only end result of that line of thought, of that relativist line of thought, which perfectly works for democracy. It works for democracy because majority rules. While it works for democracy, it's absolutely inefficient. It's terrible. Relativism is terrible at analyzing isolated objects. It works for democracy, majority rules, and thus we don't have dictators. But in terms of metaphysically analyzing a movie, a book, a video game, any cultural work, a painting, it's terrible. Because the sum of mental perceptions, while it may be good to direct a country, while relativism may work at ruining a country in a pretty effective way through democracy, while that is the case, it ignores metaphysical reality. And when you are analyzing an isolated object like a video game, you cannot ignore metaphysical reality. It must have happened to you. It must have happened to you. I always cite this stupid example, but that is quite effective. It's not stupid actually. Let's close the gap. We have to turn in a lot of those quests. We will activate that one so we can go back there whenever we want. Let me close this gap, and we have to find. I think it was through here. We're gonna close this gap. This is pretty much a strategy. We'll get through this bridge and explore this canyon today. Then we'll get to the southern region on Thursday. When metaphysical reality is defined as the sum of mental perceptions of individuals, the only end result is that everything is a matter of opinion, posh word for mental perception. In ancient Greece, remember, it was always the doxa. And it was much more precise than saying opinions, calling it doxa, because it established the difference between mental perception and metaphysical reality. Well, going back to that. When reality is the sum of mental perceptions, the end result is that everything is a matter of mental perception, of opinion. It must have happened to you people that you have an intellectual debate. As I always say, it doesn't need to get into an argument or something, let's say, violent at all. It doesn't need to get into that, to transform into that. Simply debating, and you give your logical arguments to someone. Imagine any random discussion or debate that you have with someone, and at some point you give the person logical arguments, and the person says, but that's your opinion, and this is mine. Opinion, replace it with mental perception. This is your opinion. Well, it's alright. What you are saying has a lot of logic. You may be right, but that's your opinion, and this is mine. And we have different opinions, and they both are the same. That is called the fallacy of relativism. Never, people. Never two opinions can have the same metaphysical value. Because if that were the case, metaphysical reality wouldn't exist, and it does exist. For example, they can never have the same intrinsic value, even by a slight detail, by a small, stupid metaphysical detail. The slightest one, 0.0001%, one mental perception will be always more accurate out of two opinions. Always, even by slight detail. For example, if I call this a gaming mouse, and I also call it an electronic device, right? Both of them are correct because a mouse is an electronic device. But when I say mouse, I'm being more accurate, more precise. Imagine opinion 1 is an electronic device. No, it's a mouse. It's a gaming mouse. You'll tell me the gaming mouse is more precise, and that leads me to the most interesting part of the metaphysical analysis that we always do. Damn it. Prospective gladiator has fallen. Don't tell me that failed the quest.
Does that hurt, heretic?
Don't tell me that failed the quest. Which one was it? New achievement. Oh, damn it. We can save that quest. Remember, we are doing a 100% completion of the game, so this happened to me once when I had to escort things. Like that is not saved, and we'll get the 100% completion. Out of two opinions, there will always be one that's closer to metaphysical reality, even by a marginal percentage, even by a the most slight detail, and the direct consequence of that is that they don't have the same metaphysical value. So the result that we get from this, and that we must ask ourselves, is why, people? Why exactly? Why do we call this a gaming mouse and not a chair? Most people, when asked on the street, for example, would say that basically we call it because we all agree to call it like that. And that's a relativist mindset that leads you nowhere, because at least it won't reach you to any objective conclusions. It won't lead you to any conclusions, if you know what I mean. Um, well, because it's a closed system. Person A has one mental perception, person B has another mental perception, and metaphysical reality is never reached. Right? That's the thing. Why is this a gaming mouse and not a chair? Why? That's the thing. It was shipment, right? Shipment, new shipment. We have to go over there. Let's get rid of the Scortees before we lose that quest again, because otherwise they'll be bothering us all over the place. That's another influence of the level design that I wanted to talk about today. But as I've said, why do we call this a gaming mouse and not a chair? What would you answer, people? Most people, the relativist argument is that we call it a gaming mouse because we've all agreed to call it a gaming mouse, right? Because it's a convention, because the sum of mental perceptions, of opinions, is that it's a gaming mouse, right? That puts the focus of the analysis on the subject instead of the object. That's why it's the fallacy of relativism. And that's wrong. This isn't a mouse. We don't call this a mouse because of our sum of mental perceptions, because we've all agreed to call it a mouse. A gaming mouse. We call it a gaming mouse and not a chair because it has a specific combination of molecules and particles and atoms that is so specific, it's so specific that it can never be a chair. It has a specific arrangement and combination of molecules and atoms that is completely opposite when compared to a chair. But Eraser, if we all agree to call it a chair, it wouldn't make a difference. Society would call it a chair. Thus, the fact that society calls this a chair would change the fact, the underlying fact, that the specific combination of atoms, molecules, and particles is that of a gaming mouse? No, it wouldn't change it. It definitely wouldn't change it. Why? Because throughout millions and millions and millions of years, the human beings, the human race, has been in contact. There's a lot of subconscious information that precisely describe this specific combination of molecules and atoms as a gaming mouse and not a chair. Because we've been in contact, and humans, for millions and millions of years, with an animal called mouse that precisely has the same shape as this. So there's a subconscious logical process behind calling this a mouse and not a gaming mouse and not a chair. It's objective. It's metaphysically objective. It's separated from my mental perception of calling it a mouse or a chair. It's dissociated from my mental perception. And that's the problem with game reviews. Applied to game reviews, we get the end result of people saying this. What the? It wasn't this one. No, definitely it wasn't this one. It's this one. What am I doing? See why I want to turn in that quest. Otherwise, we're gonna grab anymore. So, but we'll leave these ones for Thursday. The thought process is the same. Imagine if I told you. Imagine if I tell you, as I always say. If you like Diablo 2, you like Titan Quest. That is true. But why is it true? What analysis did I do behind that? Behind that... Oh, the shipment has arrived. Well done, my friend. There we go. Finally, we can read of them. See how many of them we were escorting. Good. We are free of people who can die. Good. Let's cover then the part of the desert that I mentioned. Let's cover the central, eastern part of the desert today, yeah? We'll leave the southernmost section of the desert for Thursday. So, as I was mentioning,
goes for this village too.
The consequence of that
Woe
on game reviews, as I
betide
always
those who
say,
harbor
it
heretic
exceeds the purpose of
ideas.
my stream, analyzing the consequences all of this has in society, on society and real life. But in the case of games, we have the end result that the quality of a game will be completely subjective according to personal taste. Right? It'll be completely subjective according to
Should come in
personal
handy
taste.
sometime.
I don't know, let's use the other one because from there I can explore that much faster. The quality of a game will be completely subjective according to personal taste. That's the end result. And that's absolutely negative because you are not taking into account the objective elements that the game brings to the table. So Sacred 2 is objectively superior in terms of level design to most modern RPG games, of most modern isometric action RPG games and MMORPG games, because hey, didn't we explore this section? Ah, yeah, but the game crashed. My bad. Well, it was a trade-off. Not having the game, alright, not having the game, not failing that quest for having a small section of it unexplored. So, yes, in terms of game reviews, the end result you get is that games will be subjective to personal, that the game's quality will be subjective to personal taste. Some people may like this game, some other people may not like this game, and that's not the case. There are objective elements that you can identify, and through which you can give the person logical reasons as to why a game is objectively superior to other game regarding certain elements. So yes, people, in the case of a level design, it has a higher complexity. And in terms of fetch quests, well, they may be simple. How they influence the level design, how they influence the gameplay mechanics, how the level design influences the gameplay mechanics. It's absolutely important, and in the case of Sacred 2, we have a perfect brew, we have a perfect combination. A perfect combination that definitely ensures that the game will have that objectively the level design is superior to a lot of other games. It's objectively superior. It's not a matter of mental perception. Why? Because we have the extension of an open world game, the massive extension of an open world game with the highly compressed quality of smaller games. So you get that element of randomness in terms of the level design, and you also get the quality of handcrafted level design elements. So yes, people, objectively, the level design is superior to the average MMORPG and isometric action RPG you would stumble upon. And we should appreciate that. But because it's uncommon in a lot of games.
By the five winds, over here.
go. Uh, what's this place? I don't know, but everyone is killing each other here. So yeah, today I wanted to cover that aspect of the analysis, the level design, and the fetch quest, and the influence of the level design. We've explored that frequently in the past, but not with that degree of detail, so I wanted to cover that today. A pretty nice place you got here. It's kind of like perfectly isolated, so you don't get killed. So well. Yeah. And here we have one more dungeon, and no, it's not the end of the terrain. That looks there. Okay, but it's the end of this plateau at least, huh? It's the end of this plateau. I wanted to reach the end of the plateau. Or not. Through here. This game reminds me a lot of Shadows Awakening. Also. This reminds me a lot of Shadows Awakening. That is extremely extensive. I would say that if you want a game that is like this one, I would probably say Shadows Awakening. Because it has the same massive extension with the complexity of the terrain. I'm beginning to think that Shadows Awakening would be a great recommendation if you like this one. We did 100% completion of that one. And it was the longest game I've ever streamed before this one. This one is higher, it's bigger. But it's like that, huh? By the way, I've investigated the topic, the thing of the secret dungeon. I investigated the thing of the secret dungeon, and we can actually the switch is actually at the end of the jungle, so we have to complete this whole region, and by the end of the next one, by the end of the jungle region, we can activate the switch to get into the waterfall secret dungeon. It's a secret dungeon, one of the best guarded secrets of the game. So yeah. Alright, so yeah, today I wanted to cover all of the level design, metaphysical analysis, people. Why it is objectively superior to the average isometric action RPG, because it has the massive extension and level design of an MMORPG, and the quality and the density and quality of the side quests, it's absolutely amazing. Of the terrain, it's amazing. We have a lot of twisting paths that definitely make this game maintain an incredibly high degree of quality. An incredibly high degree of quality, that's for sure. In terms of the level design, and this is not a matter of mental perception, as I said, this is objective. I don't see a lot of games that can have an extensive world like this one, and at the same time retain the quality, the terrain quality of Sacred 2, of a smaller game like this one. So yeah, pretty much in terms of the fetch quest, I think it's a terrible naming convention, because fetch quest, as I've said, you are putting the focus on the storyline rather than how the level design influences the gameplay mechanics. Because there you could see the perfect example is that my escortee got killed there. For example, my escortee got killed because the focus of the difficulty.
Did Anakin let you live?
What the Star Wars reference right there, people. Star Wars reference right there. Did Anakin let you live? Well, I mean, I wasn't expecting that one. The developers of this game were certainly fans of Star Wars. Yeah, that section we've already explored. So yes, people, what I've been mentioning, the level design of this game, it's vastly superior to the average RPG that you would normally get because because it has the extension of an open world game with the quality of a much smaller game, and we don't see that frequently. So yes, you could see there the perfect influence of I could perfectly simulate it and showcase it unknowingly today. See how the escortee died there? See how it died? See how he died? Sorry, see how he died? The focus of the difficulty was transitioned from my own stats to the escortee, to the fact that I couldn't escort that NPC. See the difference? The difficulty was switched from the perspective of from the player. You can have the most powerful character ever, as I have, but the objective variety of the game, the objective variety influence on the gameplay mechanics increased the difficulty. My escortee got killed, and regardless of how powerful my character was, I failed the mission. I failed the quest. And if I couldn't, and if I didn't know about that trick of restarting the game, for example, we would have had that quest failed. So there you had a perfect example of how the level design influences the gameplay mechanics of the game. And how it can drastically change the gameplay mechanics of it, right? How it can drastically change the gameplay mechanics. How it can influence them to such degree that make the game different. It's not the same defending yourself than defending escortees. Alright, we need to level up. True. We need a new skill. Here I will go for Divine Devotion to lower the cooldown of my... Or we could go for Spell Resistance, huh? But Divine Devotion, I can eventually... I think it's better on the long run. Yeah, because I'll have one more ability here that is pretty good, and our skill tree basically doesn't involve a lot of abilities, so I think I'll go with Divine Devotion for now, then we can change it. Yeah, I wonder how much you can push the Divine Gift here. Look at that, it's influenced by our... Okay. By our gloves. So for Divine Devotion, besides we're the... look at that, we have 6 free points. I should have done this earlier. 22, it went from... Hey, it went from 1200 to 900. Pretty good. Our concentration point there, and the rest should go to Gruesome Inquisition, so we can lower the cooldown of our abilities even further. I think we're pretty close to having instant cooldowns, huh? Here, we have to finish perfect, and with that we'll leave Purifying Chastisement perfect for our third passive buff. Restore inflicted damage, adds mitigation against all damage types for the Inquisitor. I think this one was roughly 10%, so good. Increases all of the Inquisitor's inflicted damage, all types of... I would say that in this game it's more important to survive attacks than dealing damage, so I know, but this one increases fire. The one that increases fire damage, I already have it. Yeah, right. Usual fire damage type reflects good. Maximum threshold of damage. That one is needed pretty much. And
Whatever.
Damage mitigation against all types of damage is quite. Yeah, because purifying chastisement by itself it increases damage, right? Yeah, it further increases damage. No. It would be unbalanced. Let's go for Inure. We should have a crazy amount of defense. Well, once we activate the buff. True, not yet. Once we activate it. Let's go for for dexterity, because it increases defense and offense, and we're at 73. That's way too low for my taste. That's way too low. We should have 100. We need more attack. We need to work on attack, huh? Our accuracy is getting outdated. Our accuracy is getting outdated. Good. Alright. Let's explore the rest of the place today. Let me cover that zone. And then let's jump to the other side of the canyon. I know it's been a lot of time. 3 hours, almost 4 hours, people. Almost 4 hours, look at that. Let me explore that section of the canyon and one more. And see if I can reach that settlement. I wonder if I can reach it. Perhaps I can reach it through there. That would be more effective. We can try that. We can try that. We might be able to reach that section much faster. Alright, but well, as a conclusion of today, people, the level design in this game is of extreme high quality, and not because I am telling you, not because of a subjective mental perception. Objectively, it combines the best of both worlds, both procedurally generated and handcrafted dungeons, and it's a perfect combination of. And it has a perfect combination of level design elements that perfectly influence the level design that is quite uncommon in games nowadays. So I highly recommend you people to give this game a shot, to give this game an opportunity, because of the objective elements that I've highlighted throughout my stream. Not because precisely of my subjective mental perception of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, hope you appreciated it, and hope you appreciated my analysis. And let's focus. We're not finishing. Sorry. Let's focus just on exploring the rest of the desert, as I've said. We'll just focus on that, smoothly exploring the rest of the desert. Conclusion for today: incredible level design, and as you can see, it's metaphysically objective that the level design is amazing. And because of the logical elements that I've been mentioning for almost 4 hours, the game has an insane amount of quality. So highly recommend you try it. And definitely this game is a tragedy. So much quality condensed in such few pixels. Well, I mean, few pixels, the game is massive. That it certainly deserves much more praise. Let's teleport there and see if we can go to if we can take the north path to the other settlement.
Wonder what kind of ridiculous
I think we can.
these villagers would
I don't see why we couldn't. I don't see why we couldn't. Let's see here. Here we have this corner. We have this corner, and I know it's even more extensive now. I want to explore the. Let's explore first the northern section of the map. Let's group them all together and dispatch them. Titan Quest is also massive like this game, but not to such insane degree. Like, Titan Quest is pretty big for an isometric action RPG. Here, I want a base of operations here to explore all of this on Thursday. Titan Quest is massive and it has a lot of objective variety, but when compared to Sacred 2, Sacred 2 is just the most extensive, one of the most extensive MMORPGs ever.
Totally overloaded.
Hey, they survived my attacks. Here we go, let's follow the path, because I'm sure this is a settlement, and we'll leave it here today, people. I'm pretty sure this is a settlement. So I will have a portal here. Yeah, totally, absolutely not. Oh. Damn it. I mean, our cooldowns should be almost instant. 10 seconds, look at that, 9.9. Look at that. We no longer need to rely on... We have to rework once again on our... We have to once again focus on our regeneration per hit. On our regeneration per hit. There we go. There we go. And we get in here. And they're all enemies. It's not a settlement. Oh, so there's no resurrection monolith in here to... Damn it, what an interesting turn of events. Damn it, clustering maelstrom. We should also improve clustering maelstrom, eh? Yeah.
No mercy on heretics.
What I didn't distribute all of my talents.
I am the wrath of the gods. Pain.
Oh yeah, I have one more. One more for divine devotion. Okay. Pretty good. Look at that. It's pretty effective, eh? I think we can bring
Is that all?
our divine gift down to a decent cooldown rate.
Do you believe in the gods?
Alright, so yeah, pretty much we cannot get a foothold there. You have to explore it manually. So we'll leave that for Thursday, people. As I always say, we'll leave it here then. We'll leave it here. We'll leave it here. Let me activate the resource monolith. Save. So we precisely got here. And let me perfectly save the game. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, thanks, guys. Deep thanks, as always, to all, especially to all of the followers of the Twitch channel. You are truly a source of inspiration, and you always encourage me to continue showcasing all of these forgotten gems that certainly deserve more praise and expand our horizon of variety in terms of forgotten games that certainly deserved much more praise back in the day. So deep thanks to all of you guys. to you, Ike 9000, to you, of course, Scar Dragoon, Crowbar, to Moigat Junior Tech, to all of you. I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate all of your um of your interest in the forgotten games that we analyze here on the channel. So special deep thanks to anyone who might have taken the time to all followers of the Twitch channel and all subscribers of the YouTube channel from the bottom of my heart. Thanks to anyone who might have taken the time to watch this as a YouTube VOD or a Twitch VOD in the future, and in general, and pretty much thanks to all of you people for watching my in-depth metaphysical reviews. I know that sometimes they're um, quite intricate, but as I always say, it is um, absolutely important that we analyze games this way, because otherwise we never reach any objective conclusions, and as a consequence, we could never say that Sacred 2, for example, is that the abstract complexity of the gameplay mechanics, or the perfect combination of the extension of the terrain with the highly dense and compressed, precisely quality of the elements of the level design elements of it, gives it an edge over the average RPG, and thus it's objectively superior to the other one. We could never reach all of those conclusions without the metaphysical analysis that we usually do here on the channel, that I deeply appreciate you people checking it out. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. See you all on Thursday. Catch you on Thursday, people, in which we'll continue exploring the southern region of the desert. Have a great week and see you all on Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. Erasor out. See you all on Thursday, guys. Have a great week. Hope you enjoyed the analysis, and see you all on Thursday.